Building wealth isn't just about personal gain. It's about empowering yourself and your community. This is Wealthy AF, your ultimate guide to understand what it truly means to be wealthy AF. And today's guest is Rosette. Mo's a health and fitness titan with over 25 years in the game. He is the mastermind behind Redefined program, helping wounded veterans and civilians conquer unimaginable challenges. As a renowned keynote speaker on fear and a leadership expert, Mo has transformed countless lives through his work with the Adaptive Training Foundation and Hunt and Cross. Get ready to be inspired as we dive into his world of mental toughness, overcoming adversity, and chasing your dreams. Remember, if you want it, go get it. And today's topic is going to be Talk It Out, the power of self-talk. Mo, welcome to the podcast, brother. My pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, man, me too, brother. So let's get right into it, man. How does what we tell ourselves impact our lives when it comes to self-talk?
Yes, I love that question. How we talk to ourselves directly affects everything we do and everything we become, physically, mentally, emotionally, and even at the cellular level. There's been research that's done now that shows that your thoughts can change your genetic expression. If you're familiar, if the listeners are familiar with the term epigenetics, that's the science of understanding that, yes, we have these genetic codes that we might be have a predisposition for certain things like diabetes or cancer or heart disease or whatever. However, there are many factors that can alter those genetic traits, nutrition, lifestyle, but the overall arching thing that has the most power to change your being at the cellular level are the words that you choose to use about yourself. So if you tell yourself, I'm sick, I've got this. And a big thing about one of the things I work with people on is people really love to name the thing that is going on with them right now. Like they'll say, my cancer, my this. They're owning it. And when
I
you say
that, by the way, for you and my listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Man, like this is just something that I'm experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, but when we label it as mine, it literally at the cellular and unconscious level, our mind and body go, oh, I own this thing. This is part of me. No. You don't. It's just something you're experiencing. So the words that we choose to use are vital. With my work with the adaptive population, the injured veterans and civilians, the power of language has enabled these individuals, specifically the individuals that have been in wheelchairs for 10 years or more, to start walking again. So you literally become what you think about yourself. If you tell yourself I can't, you're not going to be able to, or you might be able to, but your body is not going to respond in the way that it can or should. Versus when you start to reframe how you think about yourself, about you think about life, you start to see things as an opportunity and as possibility. So the what we do and the way we speak to ourselves is of the utmost importance. That behind breath is the most important thing that people can do.
I love that, man. When you said we literally become what we think about, the first person I ever heard say that, I don't know if you're familiar with Earl Nightingale. Have you heard, you've heard he has a short speech. It's on YouTube, it's free. And actually, it's an interesting story, Mo. I used to sit my kids are all adults now, around the table. Someone in 2007 sent me a CD. Back when there were CD-ROMs, right?
Yeah.
Send me a CD to my office, and it was not labeled. It was just a CD. And it had the CD, and I popped it into my computer. At the time, I had a mortgage company. And I don't know, God just put this in my existence. And it was The Strangest Secret in the World by Earl Nightingale. If you guys haven't listened to that, it's free. It's on YouTube. It's a 29-minute listen. And he literally says that you literally become, you said it word for word, what you think about is part of the strangest secret in the world. So it reminded me of that. I used to sit my kids around the table when I first heard it. My kids were little. I asked my daughter the other day, I said, do you remember? And she was like, yeah. And she remembers some of the principles. Today, she's a tattoo artist. She's an entrepreneur. She has her own shop.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you remember? She was like, yeah, I remember. You used to sit us on the table. You used to let's all listen to this stuff together. Because I wanted to plant those seeds in their unconscious mind. And we'll have to wait and see years to come, if it worked or not. I think it did, but I used to make them listen to it. So what are some of the things that some of the common negative things people say to themselves that you find, Mo, in your work? And how do you help overcome that?
The most common things I hear are I can't, Like we have been conditioned and we've been programmed to create excuses for why we can't do things. So, if someone's presented with a challenge, specifically a physical challenge, they automatically go to why they can't do that thing. And so helping people reframe to what can you do? Well, hey, let's go run a marathon. I can't run 26 miles. Okay, cool. Can you run for 60 seconds? Can you just jog for 1 minute? And then walk for a minute and then repeat that for maybe 20 minutes. Sure, I could do that. Cool. Then let's start with that. But what we tend to do is look at the big picture and how we're not ready for that thing. And look, no one's ready for that event, whatever it may be. If it's the job you've been looking for, the relationship you're hoping for, anything, we have to dial back and look at where am I right now and what can I do? And that's how we start to open people's mind and perspective of creating possibility. Again, like going back to working with the adaptive population, someone comes in there in a wheelchair, for example, and we can see that they have tone in their legs. When I say tone, meaning that they still have the muscular structure. Like if the listeners, if you have seen someone in a wheelchair, you'll know the difference. If their legs look muscular and they can move them, that individual can walk. But however, if the muscles are atrophied a lot, like super atrophied, it almost looks like bone, that's going to be more of a challenge. However, when we have someone that says, well, I can't walk right now, I can't walk yet, the doctor said I'll never do this again. And that's the other thing. It's the nevers. I'll never be able to fill in the blank. That's a BS excuse. So what do we say to those individuals is, okay, well, I mean, can we get you out of your chair and can you maybe hold a plank on your knees? I can do that. Okay, cool. Let's do that then. Can you stand up out of that chair and just lift one leg off the ground and then lift the other leg off the ground? Maybe with support, maybe without. Sure, I can do that too. All right, cool. Let's do that. And we start focusing on those little bitty things that they can do. And that reframes their thought of, wow, I don't have to walk across the room right now. I just need to be able to literally stand up. So the can't is a big thing for people. The other thing, and I really love to talk about this, especially because as a 49-year-old man and someone that's still getting stronger, still getting faster, still improving my body, I hear a lot, well, I'm getting older, or I'm kind of old for that. No, you're not. That's just something that, again, we've been conditioned to think and believe that once you hit a certain, quote, age, you should stop doing things that you once thought you could do. And that is incorrect. Now, especially with social media, man, you can go on to Instagram or Facebook and see videos and reels of people well into their 70s, 80s, and 90s doing really cool physical feats. And there's nothing special about these individuals. They just refuse to give up. They just refuse to believe that they could not do something. And that's how I live my life. That's how I coach my clients and the people I work with. Now, listen, whether it is physical, again, this can be about relationships. This can be about your business. This can be about anything you want it to be. So it's understanding of how to shift your mind from what we call negations or negative thought patterns of I can't, I don't want to, I shouldn't, I couldn't, to I am, I can, I will. And that's the key when working with the adaptive population and individuals, able-bodied individuals in sport and in life. That's one of the key foundations that I coach people on is those three things. I am, I can, I will. What can you do? And let's focus on that.
I love that. I have in my vision board, I keep what I call my power virtue. And my most important power virtue is I am healthy. I am health. I am health.
Yes.
There's a great author, and I don't know if you know him, Hal Elrod. And I think I shared this a couple of podcasts ago. So he wrote the book, The Miracle Morning. Amazing book. If you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it. Miracle Morning. And I was with Hal, and I'm going to say 2 years ago he was doing a keynote, and he shared he had cancer. He was diagnosed with cancer. And he has this thing in his book, it's called Savers, which you do silence, you visualize, right, this whole process in The Miracle Morning. And he shared he had cancer, terminal cancer, and he beat it, right? He beat it. He went on YouTube and he watched what healthy cells, he visually saw what healthy cells looked like, right? And then every morning he would meditate, seeing his body with those healthy cells, going through chemo in the hospital, and he came out of it. Second time he guy had cancer. So the mind and your self-talk to your point, is so powerful, so powerful. The other day, I see you're a health guy, obviously you're a health coach. I just got I wanted to check my T levels, my testosterone levels, right? I'm 46 years old and I'm constantly making sure I'm optimized. I walked 4 miles this morning. So I checked my T levels, and I was having a conversation with my wife. And when I did this blood test, they don't do testosterone check when you go to a regular doctor. I had my last physical, I don't know, November. And I was showing it to my wife, and I'm like, babe, look, everything was green and in line and in perfect order. And I was like, man, thank God. I look at a lot of people in my family, my age, diabetes, high blood pressure. You understand what I'm saying? And I don't know. I think it's a combination of the things that I do, the meditation, the visualization, the incantations when I'm out for my walk, the I ams, my incantations, and just the way I talk to myself. I think it's part of it. I like to believe that that's what's driving it for me. Can you share with us, brother, when you figured this out and how you discovered it and how you have used it in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, man. And same thing, brother. Like my mother's side of the family is riddled with high cholesterol, heart disease, type 2 diabetes. If you look at me and you look at the rest of my family, it doesn't match. And that's because, my mother is one of 7 and her 3 younger brothers, she has 1 older brother, had one. He passed away of heart disease in his 40s. Her other 3 brothers have all passed away of heart attacks before the age of 60, and when I do my blood markers, my cholesterol is normal, my blood pressure is solid. I'd have 0, symptoms of being pre-diabetic, which most of them also are, but it's because of, I'll now get to the question in a second. It's because of, number 1, breath work, because when you breathe, you downregulate your nervous system to a state to where your brain goes into what's known as an alpha brainwave state. That is your calm, rest, and digest nervous system state, where you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, and also you're an alpha brainwave. That's where you heal. That's where you cellularly recover. That's where your cognitive function improves. Digestion happens, all in the alpha brainwave state. But we all walk around, we don't pay attention to our breath. We're shallow breathers. We breathe up in our chest. And what that does is it creates a sympathetic nervous system fight or flight state and puts us in what's known as beta, where we're just functioning, we're operating, we're dialed in. We can't function like that all the ways. We have to be able to calm yourself down, literally with breath work. You can do meditation, you can do prayer. You can just go outside and look at nature and breathe. Take some deep diaphragmatic breaths, and that will calm you down. So that then when you start to reframe your mindset, your language, the body can respond to that. So I learned about this really, and I started practicing it back in 2015 when at the foundation, right before when I was creating the mindset side of our foundation, and I really dove into the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you're familiar with him.
I am very familiar.
Similar, yes, similar concept. And you know this, like he was a triathlete in San Diego and was doing a race and got hit by a truck, and they broke his back. And they wanted to put a Harrington rod all the way up his spine. He was like, hell no. So he went home and he visualized on a daily basis his spine healing, and walked into his doctor's office 6 to 8 months later, and his body was perfectly fine. So that's when I really started to think, I've seen some things like this in the past. I know something like this is possible. And then when I started to really, like, full transparency, experiment with our adaptive athletes, because we were just starting this process, that's when I started to see these things start to happen in real life. I started to notice that when you combine breath work with reframing your language and relaxing the body, literally, quote, miracles can happen. One of the things I always talk about when I speak on these things is I show a video of one of our athletes who was 61 years old at the time. He had severe Parkinson's, and we were able to shut down his Parkinson's tremors completely within 60 seconds by breath work and by visualization and by reframing language, those 3 key components. So once I discovered that, I was like, holy cow, man, there's something here. And the backstory with that is this gentleman that came through our foundation. So number 1, when he first came to us, he could literally not walk across the room without his cane. And once he got across the room, he would typically fall because his Parkinson's showed up in his right side. So his right leg would tremor really bad. His right hand and arm would tremor really bad. And he could barely, he was almost inaudible. And as we started working with him, his name is Mike, we started to notice that somebody said, hey man, because Mike was in special forces in the South African military. And like this guy, like literally his right hand was just all like just twitching. Like I always tell people, if you ever saw Blazing Saddles, where he was like, yeah, but this is my shooting hand. That's literally what Mike's hand looked like. But yeah. But the fun fact is, man, when this guy would go to the shooting range, Parkinson's went away. This guy literally could not stand up, and his hand was constantly twitching like this. But the second Mike got on the scope, he could put a group of 5 shots in a silver dollar grouping at 250 to 300 yards. We were like, whoa, what's happening? But then as soon as he came off the gun, Parkinson's would come back. And I had a similar experience with Mike one day at our foundation where he was having a really bad Parkinson's event. His tremors were just awful. It knocked him on the ground. He couldn't get up. I took him outside. I was able to get him up. He was using a wooden dowel, a wooden stick to hold himself up. And he leans against a wall and closes his eyes. And I'm talking to him. I'm helping him visualize. I'm helping him breathe. And then he starts doing this thing where he has the wooden stick in both hands. Like imagine a barbell at your chest. And he's going over his head and then back and over and back. And then I start to notice as he's doing this that his tremors are starting to get less and less and less and less. And then we have this big 250-pound tractor tire out back that, people flip and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he sets that wooden dowel down, walks over and flips that tire over 4 times, looks at me, winks, and walks off. And I was like, what did you just do? Mike, what the hell just happened? I said, what were you doing with the stick? He said, well, when I obviously grew up in South Africa, and he used to hang glide. He was like, man, you could catch a thermal in some of the canyons and just ride them forever. He said, however, but right before you run off the edge of that canyon, you have to get really dialed in because the winds are so tumultuous that if you're not 100% focused and present, the wind can turn you back into the side of the mountain. So I used to do this practice before I started hang gliding. And so I was like, oh, so our brain doesn't know the difference between thought and reality. And you know this from your studies. So I said, Mike, so let me understand this correctly. When you get on the gun at the range, your brain literally thinks you are a sniper again. When you do what you just did, your brain literally thinks that you're about to jump off a cliff with a big kite attached to your back. Correct. Like, holy cow, cool. This is how we control Parkinson's. And we had another guy with a similar situation, early onset Parkinson's, and he was a ball athlete, baseball and basketball. And his name's Gavin Mogan. And actually, I would encourage your listeners to check him out on YouTube as well. His name is Gavin, Gavin, Mogan, Mogan. He's got videos of himself. And his Parkinson's would translate in his legs, like they would just get really stiff and lock up. And he would purposely go off of his medication, start recording himself. And as soon as this man picked up a basketball and started to dribble, Parkinson's went away. So, going back to what this is how I started to understand the power of our mind, the power of breath, and the power of, when your brain thinks it can, your body starts to
believe it,
follow suit. Yes.
Yeah, 100%. Let me ask you a question. And you obviously, you've tapped into something so powerful, brother. Kudos to you, man. Continue to do what you're doing and continue to bring joy, man. And just, I can only imagine what it must be like when you're coaching someone and you take them through that and you teach them how to use that power. Dude, that's amazing, man. That must be an amazing feeling for you. So good for you, brother. I pat you on the back for that. Salute you for that. Keep on doing that. Why do you think, the medical field doesn't embrace this? Right? Why do you think the medical field, why aren't doctors talking about this? This stuff is out there, right? This stuff is real. You got guys like Joe Dispenza. You got guys like Hal Elrod. These guys have written books. You got countless number of people that have this experience when they visualize and they use their mind and they breathe and they calm their mind. Why do you think the medical field has not embraced this?
Yeah, because there's no money in healing people. There's money in keeping people sick. Number one. Number two, and we would get this question often is, listen, man, doctors are doing the best they can. They're taught to treat. They're taught to, the word's just escaping me right now, diagnose. But, as far as the other things that aren't proven, our thought is that, if someone comes in and they've got some sort of disease or illness, they have to go with the worst case scenario. Otherwise, if they give false hope and false promises, which we know is not false, but people don't really buy into that, there's probably a potential lawsuit there. So they're operating off the lowest common denominator of what, this is what is probably going to happen to you. And this is still really relatively new, man. Like, what we've done in the adaptive space is really it just started in 2014 and 15. So the medical profession and community, And also, if you know this, you study this type of thing, like if there's not like so much hard data, science and backing and research behind it, they just kind of dismiss it. But you can't dismiss what we've seen. You can't dismiss
That's right.
what an individual is capable of. So why not empower people? Why not, instead of saying, hey, I've got this thing going on with my body, I would, a medical professional should go, well, okay, cool. Let's look at your stress. Let's look at your lifestyle. Let's look at your nutrition. Are you moving your body? Things like that, but they're not taught those things. And listen, there's definitely a space for pharmaceuticals. There's a space for all those different things. However, the medical profession is simply not taught how to actually heal somebody from the inside out. They're taught to diagnose, they're taught to prescribe,
Treat.
stop from there. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Well, why is it important for us to be kind to ourselves with our self-talk?
Great question. I often say this too, and there's a quote that says, how long would you be friends with someone that spoke to you the way that you speak to yourself?
I've
When I drop that on people, are like,
good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly. People are like, oh, dang, probably not very long. Like, exactly. But and especially like as men, we pride ourselves on, I'm my own worst critic. I'm toughest on myself. And we wear that stuff like a badge of honor. Like, no, man, you have to be your best self-advocate. You have to be able to look in the mirror and look at that guy staring back at you or that woman staring back at you and say, I love you. You're doing a great job. We've got this, and build yourself up, because until you believe in yourself, especially in business, think about you're not going to be able to translate honestly and fully into the people that are working with you, working for you, your customers, your clients, your goals, because you're doing it in a fear-based state, because you don't like who you are. And if you don't like who you are, how can you be the best version of yourself for your family, for your friends, for everyone? That's why a lot of the work that I do now is working with professional men that have, they've succeeded or they're successful financially, but they've let themselves go. They've let their relationships go. You would be amazed at the financially successful men in this country that do not like themselves, that literally cannot look in the mirror and say, I love you. And that's a huge problem, because if you don't love yourself, you cannot fully love anything else. You cannot fully be the best version of you for whatever it is you're trying to do in life: physical, mental, emotional, financial.
This podcast is exactly about that, Mo. Wealth is not just about financial gain. It's about spiritual. It's about financial is important, obviously. It's about relationships. It's about mentally. It's about, your faith. It's about a lot of different things. It's not just the money. Like, I would have this conversation when I was a younger man with my wife. We've been married 23 years, so we've grown up together. And the conversation always used to be, when we were younger, I used to always tell her, I want to succeed and I want to make money. It's not for me. It's not just for me. It's not, what good is it for me to have financial success and not have you and the kids to share it with, right? As I was growing up and maturing in my marriage, my relationship, I'm still always growing and maturing, but it was always a conversation around that. Like, if I can't share it with other people, right, it's kind of meaningless, right? The other day I'll share this with you. I'll give you an example of that. I was in Pennsylvania. I have another house in Pennsylvania, second home, and I was there finishing a project that I have, a large real estate redevelopment project that we were doing. And I was there for 6 weeks, and my wife came the last 2 weeks. She flew in to spend it with me before we drove back home to Florida. And she sends me one day. I come home to our house over there, and she's like, hey, babe, I want to show you something. And my house here, we have a nice big pool in the back. She was like, my brother was at the house. I saw him in the camera. My brother was at the house with his nieces and nephews and his mother-in-law. They were all in the pool, and it was so fun. And I was like, man, that's so awesome. That's what it's about. Like, man, what good is it to have, like, I'm not there. We're not enjoying it. Like, what good is it to have these things if we can't share it with the people we love and care about. So it just filled my heart, and it was just exciting to me to be able to just share things, right? Like, hey, that's what it's for, right? Like, hey, that's awesome. I'm working with this, but at least someone is enjoying it. They're enjoying it. Go, man. I just filled my heart when she showed me that. And that's the point. Like, being wealthy is a well-rounded thing. It's not just the money or success in business. It's your health, it's your mindset, it's your spiritual, it's your relationship, friendship, how you're contributing to others, how you're serving others, man. It's a lot more. I was just sharing with one of my mentees yesterday. I said, every time that I find myself in a situation, I got a business decision that's hard, or something's happening in business, or something's just happening in my life, it's a challenge. The minute I take the attention away from my challenge and I focus on serving others, the minute that problem starts to dissipate, to just kind of become smaller, is because I take the attention away from me, and I just God always kind of figures it out for me. I don't know what that's just kind of what I figured. It's just God always just magically figures it out and makes it work in the end for me.
Absolutely.
My next question for you, brother, is why is it okay to look on the bright side, to look always for the good in things? Why is that? Why do you think that's important?
Yeah, that is imperative. Like, that's something that we must start doing, is looking for the opportunities in everything. Because as I started with, we've been conditioned to think about all the negatives and all the things that can go wrong, all the things that, we don't want to happen. And this as well from how you've read and studied, that we think an average of 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 80 to 90% of those thoughts are things we don't want to happen, or, of the past and of the future, of things that have happened in the past that we're regretful for, and things of the future that we don't want to happen. So we're not thinking in opportunity. So one of the things I teach as well is changing the language of have to get to. When we think about the phrase, I have to, and just going back to the formative years, and when our brains are really formed, and our personalities and our way of being are being formed between the ages of 3 and 7. In that time frame, when we're in school, we're taught you have to be a good boy or girl. You have to go to school. You have to eat your vegetables. You have to you have to go to bed on time. And on the flip side of that, you get to do all the fun things. You get to have a toy today. You get to go outside and play. You get to have a friend over this weekend. So we associate the phrase get to with something that's good at the unconscious level. Like, that's literally how we were programmed. So in our daily activities, if you can start to reframe the have to into a get to, you start to see everything, literally everything, as an opportunity. I have to go to work today. No, you get to go to work. You get to go to a place that number one, provides you insurance, that provides you income, that provides stability for your family, that provides you with challenges mentally, maybe physically and emotionally. So you start to see these things as opportunities. I get to go to, I'm stuck in traffic. No, you're not stuck in traffic. You get to be in a vehicle that has air in the summer, heat in the winter, things like that. Same thing with the grocery store. When I talk to people about reframing language, like, I hate going to the grocery store. Why? Have you ever been to the grocery store in a third world country? Go there, and then go to Kroger and tell me how bad it is.
Yeah, ain't that bad.
But it's real, man. Like, you get to go to a place that has everything you need, every type of food, every type of beverage. They have pre-made things for you. Again, it's heated in the winter, it's cool in the summer. There are people there that can help you out. So reframing the have to a get to, you start to see the opportunities and the gifts that we have on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, and in a moment by moment basis. I get to do this thing. And if and when I fail, it's an opportunity for me to learn how to do it a little bit better the next time, because we're so afraid to fail. We're so afraid of fear, and we're so afraid that we're going to, quote, look bad. No one cares, man. Newsflash. No one really cares.
That's right.
No, it's whatever you want to accomplish, especially if it's in business. Understand you have to fail. You're going to have to get your butt handed to you, probably multiple times. And that doesn't mean you're failing. That doesn't mean that it's not going to work. That's just an opportunity for you to see a better way to do it. And when you see life like that, man, it gets so much more fun. It gets so much more adventurous, and it takes the burden off of thinking that you can't do these things and you've got to overcome all these obstacles. No, man, that's the fun part of life. That's the fun part of business. That's the fun part of getting to do these things is we get to explore. And, the more you do that and the more you allow yourself just to be present and learn, whether it's in success or in failures, that's going to allow you to teach the next generation. If you're in business, that's going to allow you to teach your team, your employees, your kids, hey guys, this is what I did and this didn't work out and this is what I learned from it. You notice I didn't say the word but, because but is the biggest negation of all. So when you say, so what we've done is number one, this is, I'd say we, my wife and I, but also this is how we coach individuals, is number one, completely eliminate the phrase have to from your vocabulary. You get to do everything. And also eliminate the word but from your vocabulary. It's always an and. And also, I got like this, I'm doing stuff in my business right now and it's not going very well. We're trying everything we can. And I'm learning that maybe this might not be the right time. You see what I did? I did say but.
Yeah, 100%. That is one of the things I always ask my kids and my mentees. Kids come to me with a problem. I had one of my mentees come to me with a problem. She was like, well, this is my partner and I, this is happening here and this is happening. And I said, okay, what did you learn? Okay, cool. What did you learn and how can you get better moving forward in the future? I literally, Mo, I literally have a journal with lessons. Literally, like the big ones, like, hey, I had this dude put $100,000 lien on my property, a mechanic's lien on my property. Bro, that's a big lesson, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, hey, you better believe I sat down with my journal and I was like, okay, well, how did this happen? Well, how can I avoid this in the future? What did I learn? How can I get better, man? Like, damn, I kicked myself in the butt a little bit. The signs were here, and here. Cool. Next time in the future, I know when I see this, and this, and this, red flag. That's it. That's all I could do. Move on, get better.
Yes, that's exactly right. You nailed it.
That's it.
Yeah, but we don't do that. We look at those situations like, oh, why has this happened to me? I can't believe this has happened to you. Well, number one, it is, and it did.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like you just pining over why doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why. What matters is what can you learn from it, man? And that's the beauty of what we get to do in life. Like for you and I as coaches of leaders, like this is the opportunity that you aren't able to see right now just because the veil hasn't been uncovered for you of what's possible. And you don't see the gift in all these things, man. Like the more you get your ass handed to you, the bigger gift that actually is, because that's your opportunity to learn. And when you can see things that way, man, you just go into every day with optimism, with possibility, and with the mindset of, look, man, we're going to give this thing the best we got, and it's not in spite of, it's because of the fear, the stress, the concern over, is this going to work? I don't know. Let's go. Let me look back at my journal and go, here are my lessons. Here's what I know to be true. Here's how I know we're prepared for this. And also, if something goes wrong, here are maybe some contingencies we didn't think about.
Yeah. You know what?
Again, it all goes back to a lesson.
I like to share this with you, man. I'd like to get your thoughts on this. I was talking to a young man. I have a heart for younger men, right? That are just starting out in their business journey or they're just starting in their marriages. I like to mentor and coach young men. And I was talking to this young man and I use this analogy, and I think what you just said also comes with age, right? I think as us being now the older guys, right? It's our responsibility, because I remember when I was 24, 25 years old, right? You're gung-ho, you're full of testosterone, you're just going, especially if you got a gift and I used to think I had it all figured out. Old guys can't tell me nothing because I'm smart. It's not that like that anymore. That's the old way. That's the way you guys used to do it. Bullshit, right? It's like, There's so much wisdom with the older guys. Still to today, I got older guys that I go to, like, man, I want to know about how to stay married for 50 years. I'm going to guys that's married 50 years. Hey, man, I'm having this issue, this struggle. How do I navigate this, right? So I was talking to this young man, and I said, hey, man, it's like a timeline, right? Picture a timeline, and picture you having all these experiences. When you're young, you don't have reference points to look back. But as you get older, if you take all of your lessons, you can reference back to that and then be able to get better in the future if you've taken the time to think and see where you've made mistakes and how you could get better. I think that also comes with time and with age. What are your thoughts on that, Mo? Oh.
Yeah, brother, I love that question. And I do the exact same thing. That's what I tell people. That is the power of journaling. When you can journal your thoughts, your experiences down, that literally becomes your blueprint for success. Because exactly what you just said, it's almost verbatim what I tell people, man. Like, you get to go back on that journal and look at it and go, yep, here's what worked, here's what didn't work so well, and here's what I learned from it. So for the young listeners, I do the same thing. I mentor young men, helping them really just understand and step into what it is to becoming a man. And in that is exactly what you're talking about. It's like, look, buddy, you don't have experience yet, and you have to understand you're going to get your ass handed to you a lot, and that's how you grow. So, and looking at that, like, journal it down, write it down. Here's what happened. Here's what I learned from it. You don't need to know the solution. You don't need to have the answer in your journal at that moment. However, when it does come, that's when you write it down. But you get to go back in that thing, just like you said, and see that as those are all your experiences. And every journal entry is just one more notch in your belt of education, of learning, of growth. And that's it, man.
I love it, man. I got one final question for you. I actually have a bunch of more questions for you, but I guess my final question for you is, what advice are you giving to young people, especially young people? Because I think guys our age, I don't think this impacts us that much. We're guys like us, especially. What advice are you giving to younger people as it pertains to social media with FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Because that's a big problem. I think of myself, if the internet was around when you and I were teenagers, man, it would have been challenging to see. I grew up in poverty, right? To see all of these people my age with Lamborghinis and shit. And I know it's all bullshit, right? A lot of it is a lie. A lot of it is nonsense. But as a young person, as a younger person, and even some adults, they believe this stuff, a lot of the stuff they see. What advice are you giving these people to manage their mindset and their self-talk with the I'm not enough, or I'm not good enough, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. Man, I've done it. I haven't done it right. And I reject that for you, me, and the listeners. But when that self-talk starts to kick in, when we see this stuff on social media, what are you telling them? How do you manage that?
Yeah, great question. And man, it's the Instagram versus reality. That's one of the things I tell young folks is like, listen, man, that's not reality for most people. And number one. Number two, like you said, you can go rent these things, and that doesn't mean that's really who you are. And the last thing is that really what makes you happy? Or are you doing this because you think that's what you're supposed to do? And at the end of the day, guys, what everyone else's opinion is doesn't matter. If you can't, like we said earlier, if you can't wake up, look in the mirror, and that person staring back at you say, I love you, I'm proud of you, we're doing it, all the things don't matter. I've worked with hundreds of grown men at this point in leadership that are very financially successful. And like I said, they just don't like themselves. They're not satisfied because they are doing this thing. They're trying to go after this illusion of what success looks like. And that's just not reality. I ask them the question, like, does this make you happy, or does it stress you out? And do you think you have to do this of other people, or is it something that truly within your heart and your mind makes you fulfilled, makes you happy? And if that is a yes, then you're on the right path. But if you're doing it for clicks, for likes, for acknowledgement, that's just, those are empty promises. And those are things that aren't fulfilling and that will pass and then will fade. But if it all went away today, if all social media went away, Are you happy with who you are? And if the answer is no, let's work on that. If the answer is yes, let's keep doing that.
Awesome, brother. Last question. I promise. I know we're running out of time. Um, what strategies can you give to listeners on 1, 2, 3? Let's give them a quick playbook on things they can do today, right after they listen to this podcast, so they can be empowered to stop doubting themselves and start believing in themselves.
Love it. Number one is, we talked about that earlier. Breath is the gatekeeper to all. If you're not doing breath work, start in the morning. As soon as you wake up, take 10 breaths, breathing in through your nose and allow your belly to expand, push out your ribs to expand, and then breathing out through your nose, drawing your belly in towards your spine. That lowers cortisol, that lowers stress, that puts you in that alpha brainwave state where everything happens. That is the key. That's number one. And the beautiful thing is you get to do this all throughout the course of the day. All you have to, you're already breathing, so just put a little bit of attention and intention into it. So what I do with my people first starting out that I work with is I have them put an alarm on their phone literally every hour that just simply reads breathe. And as soon as that alarm goes off, doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, what's going on, because you're already breathing. All you have to do is just breathe and take 10 breaths. Deep in through the nose, long exhale out through the mouth. That calms you down. That allows you to create, and like we've already talked about. Next thing is language reframing. I go into these challenges today. I get to face this uphill battle. I get to step into this opportunity. And then last thing with that is, what can you do today? What is your 100% today? We also have this false expectation of being 1% better. You'll be better than yesterday. All that bullshit. Well, you're not always going to be better than yesterday. If you didn't sleep well, stress, all these different things. What is my 100% today in these buckets? Mentally, emotionally, with my work, with my physical body, with my relationships. What can I do to be 100% today? And then do that. And that way you always leave each day winning.
I love that, brother. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your insights, and the time you're taking away from your business and your students to be here. If folks wanted to get a hold of you, I know you mentioned the organization you work with. Forget the name of it. It starts with the A. What did you call it? What is the?
Well, that was in Dallas. That's called the Adaptive Training Foundation. That's where we live in Colorado now. We moved here about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
To run a different company, but you can look up the Adaptive Training Foundation. I would highly encourage your listeners to follow those individuals because it's incredible. But for me, if you want to get in touch with me, my personal, you can follow me on Instagram. I do a lot of fitness stuff and mindset stuff. It's Hunt_Prosper on Instagram. You can also reach me via email at mo@hunt-prosper.com. And then the business that we run here, we do functional training equipment and mindset and stuff like that. It's called Brute Force Training. So you can follow us there on Instagram at Brute Force Training. But that's how you can get a hold of me. And again, if your listeners need any help, if anyone has any hangups or listens to this like, hey, this speaks to me, happy to help you guys out as much as I can. That's why we're here. We're here to learn so that we can serve.
We can serve. That's right, man. That's what it's all about. I heard someone, I don't remember where I saw it. It was a book I read or a YouTube video I saw somewhere. I learned this. I don't know. Sometimes I learn so many things from so many different places. I just say them. I'm like, I don't remember where I learned that, or I don't remember where I read it. Sometimes my unconscious mind just tells me this book, this quote, right? But you just said it. It's, I heard, it was a video I saw. It was a speaker I saw on YouTube. And he said, every time I read a book or I learn something new, it goes input, output, input, output. So I learn it, I teach it. I learn it, I exercise it. I learn it, I put it to work. If I like, input, output.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the fastest way to learn. I really like that. And I think you just said that, apply, right? So thank you, brother. Really, really appreciate you coming on here, taking the time and sharing, guys. You guys heard him here. Mo, follow him, check him out. Thank you, Mo. Really appreciate you, my friend.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you.